A warm welcome to all of you to the Science Café on Youth Mental Health Wellness webinar. My name is Sergio Aguilar Gaxiola. I'm a professor at UC Davis School of Medicine and the director of the Center for Reducing Health Disparities and the Community Engagement Program of our Clinical and Translational Science Center. The Science Cafés are community conversations we are having around topics that are of interest to the public. The two main goals of the UC Davis Health CTSC Community Engagement Program Science Café series are two. First, strengthen science literacy by engaging communities and the public and translational scientists in an informal setting through bidirectional dialogue of current scientific and health-related issues and their impact on our society. And second, enhance the public trust of communities on science. The first Science Café series was launched on June 13, 2016, almost 8 years ago, and we had in-person meetings at that time. On April 2020, we had the first virtual café session, and all the sessions had been virtual since then. There is a lot of work behind these webinars. So I want to thank Vanessa Trujillo and Elliot Hausman Turrubiate for their help in organizing this Science Café event. I also want to thank BrightLife Kids and the California Department of Healthcare Services Office of Strategic Partnerships for their hard work and dedication planning for this event. They will facilitate this webinar. The project is funded by the California Department of Healthcare Services, and I'm now my pleasure to introduce to Melissa Watts, a Community Engagement Manager at BrightLife. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Sergio, and thank you everyone for joining. I am going to go ahead and share my screen here. And to introduce myself, my name is Melissa Watts. I'm a community engagement manager with Brightline. I'm based in the Bay Area and work really closely with a lot of our partners in the Northern California region. And I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Jessica Meads, who's based in Sacramento. And also working with a lot of our Northern California partners. So we're excited to be here tonight and tell you a little bit about this new program called BrightLife Kids that just launched January 1st, 2024. So very new and very exciting. Sneak peek, it is completely free to families with children ages 0 to 12. So I'm excited to tell you kind of how that came about. So to give you an idea of what we'll talk about, I will give you a little background on the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, CYBHI. And then we'll do a little warm up to kind of wake people up. I know it's the evening, so make sure people are engaged and awake. And then I'll tell you about BrightLife Kids, who it's for, and how it works. And then we can talk about maybe some ideas of how, if we have parents on the call, how we can work together to share with other parents, or if we have other members of the community on the call, we can all kind of brainstorm together about how we can get the word out about this new program to families. So first, to give you background, before we do the warm-up, so I mentioned this is free. And, sometimes people say, okay, what's the catch? Is this really free? What do you mean by free? How did that happen? And so this program was funded by the California Department of Healthcare Services as part of the Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, which is a really large $4.7 billion investment in children and youth mental health. And we are one of just 15 work streams of this large initiative. And we sit in the Behavioral Healthcare Services virtual work stream. So everything I'll tell you about tonight is a virtual service. And I'm happy to say this covers ages 0 to 25. So we tonight will talk about the ages 0 to 12, which is what BrightLife Kids focuses on. And then if anyone was able to join at the previous Science Cafe, Saluna spoke at the last one, and that is about providing support for families and youth who are 13 to 25. So happy to share more information about that if anybody on the call is interested in that one as well. But first, I'd love to get a little insight into who is on the call. So I have this question here. If you have your phone, you can go ahead and scan the QR code, or I think Jessica might have even been able to drop the link in the chat. And I'll leave this up for a moment. It should take you to a page where you answer the question of what age is your child, or what ages are your children. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing this screen so I can share the other one and we can see the results come in. Okay, so far, okay, we have a 13 plus. I should vote myself. I have a 2-year-old. She's my first, and I don't know how long I'm allowed to say that I'm a new mom, but I still feel like it's a new thing that I'm going through. Okay, awesome. And we have a 6 to 9 year old and a 10 to 12. Great, another 10 to 12. And if I were voting, then this is the 0 to 5. So it looks like we actually span the entire spectrum of ages, which is exciting because this program supports all ages 0 to 25. I'm going to go ahead and just stop share this one. Feel free to put in your answer if you haven't already. I think it'll prompt to the next question when I get to that slide. So I'm going to hop back over there. Okay, so diving back in there, what we found, or what I learned, is that we have people who have children of all ages on the call. So very exciting. And now just to kind of dive in, I like to start by giving you an overview or kind of the differentiation between Brightline and BrightLife Kids. So Brightline is the parent company, and it was founded 4 years ago in Palo Alto. And it was designed specifically to address the pediatric behavioral health crisis. And excitingly, it has expanded across all 50 states in those 4 years and now covers over 60 million lives. So very exciting. It did happen around the time of COVID, which was a very challenging time for a lot of parents, where they needed that virtual care and that virtual support. So I highlight here in all the other 49 states, they have to pay either out of pocket or through their health insurance plan or their employer insurance plan. But in the state of California, it is completely free. So like I mentioned, through that CYBHI, Children and Youth Behavioral Health Initiative, it has been paid for. So this is free one-on-one behavioral health coaching for all parents in California with children ages 0 to 12. And I'll kind of dive into what does that mean, and what would I talk about with a one-on-one coach, all of those things moving forward. But first, I really want to kind of highlight, again, sometimes people say, where have you been my whole life? Or what's the catch? Like I said, we launched January 1st. So that's where we've been. This is new. And there are no costs attached. We do not ask questions about insurance. It doesn't matter. We do not require referrals from a doctor, from anybody else. So a parent can directly access this care and support without needing a referral. And then we also have bilingual English-Spanish coaches and live translation in the 17 other Medi-Cal threshold languages. So really thinking, what are those barriers to access care? I have experienced that myself, and a lot of times I think parents are, when they're reaching out for help, is a moment of vulnerability, and when they maybe have less energy, have had less sleep, and then they have 10 hoops to jump through to access that care. So this is really thought through and is supposed to kind of move aside all of those hoops that people usually have to jump through to get access to care and connects parents to support immediately. Oh, and here's another one to keep everybody on your toes. So another Mentimeter, another kind of quiz to see who's in the room. So when I talk about, and feel free to scan the QR code and answer this, but when I talk about behavioral health, a lot of parents' eyes kind of glaze over, or they look a little confused. And so I wanted to pause and see what people think about when I say this is a behavioral health support. So if you want to click on this link in the chat, again, should work again, or if you want to scan this QR code, I'll jump over to that screen and see what the results are. Okay, so what words come to mind when you hear behavioral health? I should have put some nice background music. I hope this is working, actually. I can't really see the chat um, to hear if it's going through. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So sterile, not relatable, emotional issues, mental health. This is so clinical, emotional well-being, ADHD, sleep behavior. This is so insightful to hear people's initial reaction before just moving forward. And talking all about this great new behavioral health support. When you really ask people in the beginning what they think of, and you hear, not relatable or clinical, it can be, I think that's why it's really important to pause and make sure that we, start the conversation from the beginning, not just assuming we're all on the same page. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share here and go back and kind of at least explain a little bit about what I mean and what our coaches talk about with families when they're talking about behavioral health. Okay. So on this slide, so what is behavioral health when we talk about that at BrightLife Kids? What I've done here is pull out some of the topics that coaches talk to parents about. Of course, I can't list them all on one slide. That would be overwhelming. But what I did is select a few across the range. So for example, disruptive behaviors. I've talked to a lot of teachers and school counselors this year. And they have expressed a huge rise in behavior problems with children, especially young children. Some young children were, missed out on the first couple years of school, of sitting behind a desk. Parents were overwhelmed when COVID happened and had to teach their children, even though they weren't trained in teaching. So a lot of attention issues. I think they even have a term for it, coasting or something, where children just stand up and walk around the classroom because they're not used to sitting behind the desk. So a lot of teachers have noticed, a rise in some of these disruptive behaviors. Or for example, I mentioned I have a 2-year-old, so the sleep issues and patterns and the managing big emotions, maybe I was biased when I pulled these out, but these are two, when I became a parent, I didn't realize, and I wondered, what are all the other parents doing? Are they all also not sleeping for 6 months? And, But it turns out that's normal, and there are things we can do, create routines, or the managing big emotions. There are tips and tricks. So the idea here is we're trying to normalize talking about things together and reaching out for help, because parenting is challenging. It's beautiful, but it's also challenging. So really kind of pulling out any topic. So we can talk about the disruptive, but we can also talk about the normal things that every parent deals with, and start a conversation. So here I really wanted to zoom in for everyone on the call about those different age ranges, because I know it actually looked like we had a span across all the age ranges. So I wanted to give you all a glimpse into actually the topics that coaches talk to parents across the age range. So for the very young 0 to 4 age range, they, for example, might learn how to identify developmental milestones and when it's time to seek help. So this is something that, you know, when your child is maybe crawling later than all the other babies or talking later, that was something that I went through with my daughter. It's really hard to know when you should just relax or when you should seek help. And so talking to a professional who's been trained in child development is an amazing resource that parents can access. And I listed out a few more, growing your vocabulary, and ways to communicate with your child. When they're that young, they're not able to tell you all of the reasons why they're behaving a certain way. It often comes out in behaviors rather than in words. So a lot of these, the tantrums, frustrations, I won't get into all of it, but these are some of the topics that coaches talk to parents about in that 0 to 4 range. And then the 5 to 8 range. So this is when children are starting to, learn how to express those emotions a little bit better. They have the vocabulary, they're starting school, they're going through big transitions. They're also learning how to be independent and responsible. And this one, balancing alone time with social time. So kind of, if they're at school all the time and then they come home and they act a certain way, they might have just been really stimulated that day and maybe need a little quiet time. So learning kind of how to understand and navigate your child's development. And then in the 9 to 12 range, so setting boundaries online and on social media. We actually just had a webinar about this month. It is a huge topic. How do we, prevent some of the mental illnesses and challenges that arise from social media use, and work with our children to help them understand why we're doing that. And then just developing healthy patterns around sleep, around stress. This is often also when coaches start working directly with the children. So, teaching children basic breathing exercises or phrases they can say to themselves to combat stress or anxiety that they're going through. And the beautiful thing is, 0 to 12 is a great time to start working with parents, to give them the tools, and then also start working with children, so as they enter into adolescence and young adulthood, they already have those skills as a foundation. They already have some breathing patterns and practical tools they can use when they get into those older ages. All right, check-in time. It's been too long of me talking all at once. So here we have a little question, to see if everybody's awake and paying attention. So I'm going to put a question here, and we will just see who can type the fastest is how we'll see. And I think Jessica can check the chat and let us know who typed it the fastest. But the question is, who is eligible for BrightLife Kids? So I actually don't know if I specifically mentioned this, but this will be a primer for the next slides. And for some reason, I can't see the chat. I don't know, Jessica, if you're able to come off mute and let us know if anybody answered it correctly.
We are awaiting the correct response.
Oh. Well, like I said, I also don't know if I specifically said the eligibility criterion, so I can just move right ahead and give the answer. So all families in California with children ages 0 to 12. So there really are not qualifications. Everybody is eligible. So maybe a little bit of a trick question there. You just need a California zip code and a child 12 or under, and you are eligible. And then to just keep the train going of kind of engagement, feel free to scan this QR code and answer this question. Again, and something that I'm really interested to hear from families. Who do you usually turn to when you have questions about your child's behavior? So maybe, you know, we turn to our pediatricians for health-related issues, but who do you turn to if you would have a question about something your child is doing, the way they're behaving with their friends at school, at home? I'll go ahead and exit out of here and jump over to that other screen. All right, friends. Yes. Colleagues and family. Absolutely. Family, Google, teacher, pastor. Absolutely. I'm so glad that we have this kind of village of people that we do reach out to. Jessica and I have talked about this before that, you know, they say it takes a village, but sometimes some of us don't have that village around us. So for example, I moved actually back to the country right when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I didn't have family nearby. So then we reach out to friends or colleagues. But I think, you know, another thing that definitely, and I'm surprised nobody put it up here, but I would have added it for myself. So I think Google for sure. And then social media. Sometimes I, you know, follow kind of parenting pages. And that's fine, but those are sometimes not trained professionals in child development. And social media can also create a lot of pressures for us as parents. And Google, the first thing says, you know, never do this with your child. And then the next one says, you should always do this with your child. So it's so much information that parents have to digest and sift through. So I'm glad that people do have, you know, their family and their friends to turn to, but this is just another resource. And like I said, the nice thing is it's also a resource of professionals who are trained in this. So I'll go back to the slides. Thanks everyone for joining us in this. All right, so now that we kind of understand the behavioral health piece, I wanted to just zoom in and show you what this looks like. So BrightLife Kids, like I mentioned, is that coaching. And there are a couple other pieces as well that I'll highlight, but really it's as easy as about 3 steps. So first, it is accessible on all web browsers. So any laptop, computer, somebody asked me earlier in a call if they could access it on a library computer, for example, if they don't have a computer at home. Yes, absolutely. They can access it anywhere that there's a web browser. We also have an app for iPhones. Sadly, we are still working on the Android app, but Android users tell me they can just pull it up on the web browser on their phones. It's just not as pretty yet. But I kind of took screenshots of what it looks like on the app of the 3 steps. So first, all you need to register and kind of qualify is a California zip code and a child 12 and under. So there's that answer again. And then it takes you immediately to a needs assessment page. So this is a very short, we're again trying not to lose parents at this stage. You know, you might have the dog needs to go out and the kids are playing, and, you know, parents don't have 20 minutes to just sit down and fill out a questionnaire sometimes. So this is 90 seconds. It is meant to be very quick. You're waiting for, you know, your daughter to come out of daycare, something like this. And they fill it out and it takes them immediately to the results page. People are always seeking fast results, and I can't say there's the behavior change result, but I can say that the result from that screening is immediately accessible to them, which parents really like. So it kind of summarizes the questions and tells them what they're going to focus on in the coaching sessions. So for example, in this one, it says that they would work on anxiety and bullying with the child and the family. So it pulls those results and says, this is what we're going to focus on. And then if they scroll down on that same page, the results page, they can select a coach. And so they can select a coach based on the background. We have a lot of coaches who have a specialization and background in autism spectrum disorder, intellectual developmental delays, as well as a really strong focus on hiring coaches who represent a very diverse background. Both with language and the BIPOC community, as well as the LGBTQ plus community. So we want to make sure that families are able to talk to somebody that they feel like understands what they're going through and can relate to some of the challenges that they're facing. So the parents get to select their own coach based on availability and background. And then I'll go into the kind of other pieces of what that coaching session looks like. So here I talked a lot about the behavioral health coaching piece, so I'll start there. These are 30-minute sessions. There is no maximum amount of sessions that parents can book with a coach. It is though thought of as a short-term intervention. So I think right now it's about 4 to 7 sessions. These are weekly sessions that parents work with coaches. But it can be as quick as one session. Do you have some questions that you want answered? Are you finishing an IEP for your child and you need some advice about what you should put down there? Then you can, you know, just set up a chat with a professional and they can walk you through that. There's also a secure chat where parents can message coaches if they either are too busy to make that session or if they have questions in between sessions. Then they're also able to message their coach. And then I also highlighted these 2 other pieces of the app, which I think are really neat, and of the platform, it's also accessible online, is this kind of digital tool library. So this is pulled from that initial needs assessment, which means it's personalized to families. So this families can access and navigate on their own time. It includes videos, articles, exercises they can do with their children to kind of navigate whatever they're going through on their own time. For example, for me, I said, you know, I have a 2-year-old, so I could be, you know, folding the laundry and listening to a podcast about potty training, because that's something we're about to start trying to work on together. So that's kind of the digital tool library that's accessible and it's very low hanging. So if people are nervous about that one-on-one coaching, they can start there. And then there's also this care coordination piece. So if any of you work with children and families, you know and have experienced that we do not exist in a vacuum. And there are often a lot of things going on all at the same time with families. So for example, in some coaching sessions, it's come up that there is housing insecurity or food insecurity or higher acuity needs that, you know, need to be referred to a professional beyond the developmental professional, like a psychiatrist or a licensed psychologist. And so in those cases, we then work with the family to help them navigate that kind of, you know, all the hoops they have to go through. We walk through it with them and get them connected to resources in their community and kind of navigate that healthcare system with them. All right, another check-in. It's the evening, so we put a lot of these in there to keep people awake. And this one is another one of those questions. Don't worry, I think we're done with pulling out the phone. piece, but this is just one last kind of check-in question about the slides. So again, if anybody wants to type their answer in the chat, please feel free. What are the 2 things you need to start using this amazing resource? And as I look at these questions, I realize I think there's multiple ways to answer them. So Jessica, we can be flexible with the answers. But whenever we have somebody who writes in, you can come off mute and tell me if we got any right answers. All right. People are either sleeping or they're nervous to put the answer in, so I can just move forward so I keep people awake. All right, so the answer is a California zip code and a child 12 or under. So those are the only 2 things you need to be able to kind of be eligible and log into this and access all these resources. So it is really for every parent, no matter where they're at. We want to be there for everyone. I also wanted to give a little background on our coaches. So all of our coaches have a master's degree in a health-related field or a bachelor's degree plus one of these 2 coaching certifications. We also make sure that all of our coaches have at least 5 years of direct experience working with children, youth, and families. And all of our coaches then, once selected, go through 80 hours of skills and tools development training. And then, as I mentioned before, we also make sure and really focus in the hiring process to hire diverse or people with diverse backgrounds. California is wonderfully and beautifully diverse, and we want to make sure that when parents log on, they are able to access people that understand their background and speak their language. All right, and in this one, I pulled out, so this program launched January 1st, 2024, so it is still fairly new, but in the first few months, we asked, after kind of the first, I think maybe last month, we reached out and said, does any family want to give feedback about your experience? And I thought this was really neat. This family was very enthusiastic and wanted to be wherever they could to talk about BrightLife Kids. And so the story here is Tallulah is the girl here in the black t-shirt, and she was having panic attacks before school. And the parents were really at a challenging moment then because, school attendance is very important. They couldn't just say, you don't need to go to school. All right, well let's see how this passes. But they also didn't want to just force her to, push those feelings down and just go to school, which, at least in my generation, I think that's kind of how we used to do it. We used to just say, toughen up and go to school. And the good news is now we have more awareness of anxiety and other mental and behavioral health challenges, but it doesn't mean it's really easier to navigate. It would take a long time for her to get connected to care, and her parents were at a loss. So they heard about BrightLife Kids, signed up, were able to access a coach within a few days. And this I just thought was really neat. I pulled out 2 quotes from their kind of testimonial. So Tallulah said, Dad, I had an anxious moment this morning, and I remembered what Jordan, her coach, told me, and I said it to myself 3 times, and the day was great. So I think this is just a really beautiful note to remember that sometimes that early intervention can go a long way. So if she had, had to wait and push it down, it could have grown into something much larger. But now she has tangible things she can say 3 times. She feels empowered. She feels like she knows what to say and do to overcome that feeling of anxiety. And then her parents also said, we are no longer facing the mountain of trying to figure out how to find help for my child. I am in great debt to Brightline, and my child is doing wonderfully. So just great feedback. Again, this kind of facing the mountain of trying to figure out how to find help. That's actually how Brightline, the company, was started. Our CEO had a child who had a lot of health challenges, and it felt like climbing a mountain to get access to those. So that's kind of the birth of the idea of Brightline, and BrightLife Kids was to kind of eliminate that mountain and those barriers to access care. All right, and then here to give you a little break from my voice, I have pulled up this nice kind of 2-minute video. This is just kind of showing you everything that I talked about, but in a nice, succinct way, and clicking through the platform as well. So I'll go ahead and let that play.
As parents, we're all just doing our best. But what if you had a coach by your side? BrightLife Kids by Brightline offers behavioral health coaching and tools for parents and kids ages 0 to 12. It's high quality care with no cost attached and no insurance needed, paid for by the state of California. When you join, it's important for us to get to know you and your child and understand any concerns you have, such as stress, worries, bullying, transitions, and more. We look out for any safety needs we should address quickly. And what you tell us will always be kept private. We then use assessments to get a snapshot of your child's behavioral health, and we show you the results right away. This helps us form a customized set of options to meet your family's needs. We offer digital tools like parenting videos and exercises, where your child can learn skills like how to manage their feelings, care guidance on local and crisis resources, and live video sessions and secure chat with a dedicated coach. If you want a live session, just choose a coach that best fit your child and book right away. Our coaches have master's or bachelor's degrees with coaching certificates and at least 5 years of experience working with kids and families. We have bilingual English and Spanish coaches and interpretation available in 18 languages. You can also chat with your coach if you're on the go. Whether it's through the library of resources or your dedicated coach, we can help you navigate your child's developmental milestones and challenging behavior. Now, if your family needs more support, we'll provide a care guide who can help you decide on care options and get set up with in-person care or other supportive services right in your community. Let us support your family to build tools, get coached, chat, find local resources, and more. Go to BrightLife.Kids to get started.
Wonderful. All right. So only a few more pieces. I hope that, and I'm excited to hear if there are any questions kind of about the content of the coaching sessions or who this is for. But right on this part of the slides, I wanted to just talk a little bit about how we partner with people in the community. So if there are parents on the call or other organizations, even if you're not a parent, there are some great ways that we can get the word out to parents that this exists. So the first piece is community lead presence. So that is myself and Jessica, for example. We have community engagement leads spread throughout the state of California. This is accessible to all families in all 58 counties. And so we partner really closely with people in the community. So if you have a church group or a school group or are part of some other group, whatever it is that might benefit from hearing about this, then we're happy to join to do a presentation for them. Whatever it is that you have ideas, we're here to partner with you. And I'll drop my contact information in the chat as well, so people can reach out directly to me if they'd like. And then in the middle here is the promotional material. So we have flyers, posters, template emails, a lot of material that we've created based on feedback from our partners in these first few months about how we can spread the news and share with parents. And this last piece is parent-facing resources. So we have webinars, either a workshop that we can do. Again, if you have a group of parents, we can do a webinar or workshop with them, giving them kind of practical tools and advice. I think the most recent ones are about how to keep your children entertained and off their screens over the summer. Not that they need to be completely off their screens, but maybe they shouldn't be completely on their screens. And so kind of some tips and tricks on what you can do that is a low lift for parents, but still keeps children engaged. And then we also have a monthly webinar where people can just join and learn about a specific topic. So again, the last one was actually about that screen time piece. I think it was our most attended webinar. Parents really want to know advice and what other people are doing. So there's a lot of resources kind of both for you if you want to share the news with other people, or for parents who want to learn more and kind of understand what this is and how they can benefit from it. And then this is just kind of a zoom in on that centerpiece, that digital toolkit that I mentioned. I'd never heard of something called the digital toolkit before I joined. So I just pulled out kind of examples of what's in that. So for example, we have the one-page flyer. You can put up, on a bulletin board or put up in different spaces that you might be in or hand them out. Then, of course, we also have these kind of pre-built social media things. So if you're like me, I don't really know how to post, but if it's already made, then I can probably get it up there. And then we also have email templates. So, if you have a parent newsletter that goes out or you're on an email thread with people you think could benefit, then this is already written up so you don't have to worry about how to write that email. And then we do also have a community feedback form. So like I mentioned, the program is very new, just launched January 1st. And this is a great time to give a voice to your community. There are so many different communities and cultures represented in California, and we want to make sure that when we are building out and training our coaches, that we are taking into consideration all of the different pieces that make up California and the families that are in California. So I again can kind of share this form with anybody who's interested, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of speak up. What's different about your community? What would you like to see? It's a really neat idea that we can all work together to create a program for our families. And that is it. I wanted to make sure that it was, kind of short and sweet, but I hope that this was helpful for any parents on the call and anybody else. I can go ahead and stop sharing just in case there are any questions. I can kind of open it up for any questions or ideas that we can talk about.
I have a question for you, Melissa,
Yeah.
if I may. Is this going to be available, or is available in Spanish and potentially other languages as well?
Yes, absolutely. So the entire platform is available in English and Spanish, both the app and the online version. And then for the coaching sessions, we have live translation for free in the 17 other Medi-Cal threshold languages. And you reminded me of something. I mentioned those parent webinars or workshops. We also have at least 1/4, maybe more, of our team that are bilingual English-Spanish. So they are able to then, do workshops or meet with parents and families who are Spanish speaking to make sure that we're having these exact same conversations, not only in English, but for other languages as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I don't know if anybody else has any questions. I think, yes, thank you so much, Jessica. Put my email in the chat as well in case anybody has any questions, or if any of this resonated with you and you have ideas of a group that you're a part of or somebody who might benefit from this. Please feel free to reach out just directly to me. This is supposed to be for everybody. My job is just to connect with community members and let you know this exists. It's new, so not very many people know about it yet. I'm not sure, Sergio, if you want me to stay on, I'm happy to. But yes, thank you, everybody. I just wanted to say for joining.
No, I think that it was a wonderful presentation, very informative, and it's an excellent resource as well. And I have 5 grandchildren, and 4 of them within the age range for BrightLife Kids. So I'm gonna tell my own children about this resource, and I'm looking forward to see if our grandchildren, and the ages are 10, almost 9, 5, and 4. So looking forward to speaking with my kids to see if they are going to be using this resource, and if there are any questions, we're going to reach out to you. Okay.
Exactly. Yes, please. I think that's always the most interesting questions when when you're having a conversation with your family or close friends, they're more, open to asking questions or giving feedback. So maybe you can, if they're willing after that conversation, to share feedback with me about what were their hesitancies, what were their questions. Yeah, thank you.
And if someone is interested in the slides, can the slides be shared?
Yes, absolutely. I will work with Vanessa to share the slides and then maybe even share the recording out. I'm not sure. But yes, happy to share anything we can. This is for the community, built for the community. So anything we can do to help.
Super. Well, thank you so much again. And absolutely, we'll be absolutely in touch.
Amazing. Thank you for giving me the space.
Absolutely.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Take care.